What's up, friends? Kenji back for another Ixalan limited set review, this time with the part of Wooburg. That means red. Let's jump right in. We have Angrath's Marauders, 2 red and 5, 4/4 human pirate. If a source you control will deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. This is a Furnace of Wrath on a 4/4. Just for you, though, sir. This is quite an awesome card, and a 4/4 is, pretty large on its own anyways. It is expensive, but I expect this card to end quite a few games in limited. Give this probably a 3 out of 5. Bonded Horncrest, red and 3 for a 5/5. Dinosaur, can't attack or block alone. Normally, these types of cards are hit or miss, of course. You think of things like Ember Beast, which is a 3-mana 3/4 with the can't attack or block alone clause as well. This one, as a 5/5, is really, really solid, because that way, if you're even just holding up a 1/1 to block, in addition with it, you're going to be able to eat a larger creature. I think this is actually a pretty decent card, especially for the stats, and it is a dinosaur, 2.5. Brazen Buccaneers, red and 3 for a 2/2 haste. When it enters the battlefield, it explores. So you're either getting a 3/3 haste for 4, or you're getting a 2/2 haste that draws you a card. This explore card's not too amazing, as even a 4-mana 3/3 haste, if it gets the 1/1 counter, is, not amazing stats. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. Burning Sun's Avatar, 3 red and 3 for a 6/6 dinosaur avatar. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 3 damage to target opponent and 3 damage to up to 1 target creature. This is definitely, one of the most powerful rares in a limited aspect. Triple red is kind of holding it back. I mean, it's not very easily splashable, but, even if they don't have a creature, you're still getting a 6/6 for 6 that shoots the opponent for 3 damage. Very, very good. You're going to play it in all of your red decks. You're probably going to take it pretty highly in draft, as it's often going to be a 6/6 Flame Tongue Kavu. I'm going to give this a 3.5. Captain Lannery Storm, red and 2 for a 2/2 haste. Whenever it attacks, you get a treasure token, and you can sacrifice, or rather, whenever you sacrifice a treasure, Captain Lannery Storm gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So, good value. It can already attack as effectively a 3/2 on the turn that you play it, and then, of course, it can just get bigger and bigger and get more advantage with the artifacts, treasure tokens, as the game progresses. This is a 2.5, or maybe even a 3. Captivating Crew is red and 3 for a 4/3 human pirate, and then you can pay a red and 3 to gain control of target creature an opponent controls until end of turn. Untap that creature, it gains haste until end of turn. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. So, even though it's not a true, it is, I guess it is an act of aggression or act of treason effect, but it's not an instant speed one, so you can't really blow out on the opponent's turn. But this ability is still hugely powerful. It's going to end many a game. And even though it is rare, so you're not going to see it frequently, you're going to want to play this whenever you can. In fact, this is probably very, very splashable as well. I'm going to give this a 3.5. Charging Monster Sword, the red hits keep on coming. This is a red and 4 for a 5/5 trample haste dinosaur. Wow! I think of things like Bolcerodon come to mind when I look at this card, and it is just an amazing uncommon. It's very splashable because it only has a 1 red requirement. It's huge, 5/5 trample haste, and it's it can attack the turn that you cast it. I think this might honestly be a 4 out of 5. It's either 3.5, leaning towards a 4. You're almost always going to play this if you can splash it. Just a great, solid uncommon. Demolish, red and 3. Reprint, destroy target artifact or land, and 1 out of 5. Dinosaur Stampede, red and 2. Instant, attacking creatures get +2/+0 until end of turn. Dinosaurs you control also gain trample. I'm going to give this a 1.5. out of 5. It's pretty medium. If you're super aggro, sure, it can be good. And if you have dinosaurs that get the added trample, you might be able to push in for some extra damage. But normally these super aggro effects are only good in specific decks, and their overall quality is just too low to really want them. Dual Shot, another reprint, red for instant, deals 1 damage to each of up to 2 target creatures. Depending on how many 1 toughness creatures are in this format, and they're seemingly seemingly seem to be a decent amount. This dual shot goes way up or down versus particular decks or strategies. Versus some decks, it's always going to be dead, or it's just going to be very, very poor, and you're looking at like a 1 out of 5. But versus some decks where you can often get a 2 for 1, the value goes up maybe all the way up to a 3 out of 5. So varying rates for dual shot. Fathom Fleet Firebrand is a red and 1 for a 2/2, and then you can pay a red and 1 to give it +1/+0 until end of turn. This is actually just an amazing bear, right? In red, you get a 2/2 for 2, vanilla a lot of the time, but the fact that you can pseudo fire breathe this means it's going to be a threat later in the game as well. You can attack in. If you have 6 mana, you can trade away with a 5 power creature or get in for 5 damage. Bears normally range in the 1.5 out of 5 area, but this one's more like a 2 or even a 2.5. Fiery Cannonade, red and 2 for an instant, deals 2 damage to each non-pirate creature. I think this is another really solid uncommon, similar to a Pyroclasm effect, and if you can take advantage of the pirate creature type, then you're just going to go way ahead. I'm going to give this a 2.5 out of 5 because it's easily splashable and can be really great versus some of the decks. Fire Shrine Keeper is the cycling, or part of the 1 mana, 8 mana cycle cards in the format. This one is a 1 mana 1/1 with Menace. You can pay 8. It deals 3 damage to each of 2 target creatures. I don't think it's as good as the blue creature from this cycle, but I do think it's a decent one. It's, again, super annoying. It has early evasion because of the Menace, and later on, being able to kill or deal 3 damage to 2 creatures is pretty large, so I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. Fire Cannon Blast, 2 red and 1. Sorcery, deals 3 damage to target creature. Raid, deals 6 damage to that creature instead if you attack the creature this turn. One of the best red commons in the format. No, it doesn't go to players' faces, but the versatility of being able to do 3 to a creature, which should kill most creatures in the format, or 6, which kills a lot more bigger threats, gives you some good utility. And even though the double red is a little bit prohibitive, I think this is just one of the best red commons, 3 out of 5. Frenzied Raptor, red and 2 for a 4/2. Normal stats, 2 out of 5. Headstrong Brute, red and 2 for a 3/3, can't block, but it has Menace as long as you control another pirate. And Headstrong Brute is, of course, a pirate. I think this is going to be nice in the aggro decks. 3/3 for 3 is fine and limited. Sure, you don't get a block with it, but having Menace means if you're the aggressor, this is going to do some good work. 2.5 out of 5. Hijack, another reprint, 2 red and 1. Sorcery, gain control of target creature or artifact until end of turn. Untap it, it gains haste. Again, you're not going to really want to run any more than maybe 1 at most in one of your super aggro decks. 1.5. Lightning Strike, the reprint we've all been clamoring for. One that's not Lightning Bolt, however. Red and 1, instant, 3 damage, target creature, player. Just very solid removal, very splashable, 3 out of 5. Lightning Rig Crew, red and 2 for a 0/5 Goblin Pirate. You can tap it to deal 1 damage to each opponent, and whenever you cast a pirate spell, untap it. So, a lot of similarities to other pingers that we've seen in the past. This one has a huge butt, by the way. 5 toughness for 3 mana means you're going to be able to block a lot of damage with this card while also dealing a decent amount of damage to the opponent. And even if you have 0 other pirates in your deck, I think this is just a great red card to have. I'm going to give this a 2.5 or maybe even a 3. Makeshift Munitions, red and 1, enchantment. Pay 1, sacrifice an artifact or creature, deals 1 damage to target creature or player. This ain't no reprint of, let's say, one of the other cards like this that we've seen before, Goblin Bombardment, etc. But the fact that you can sacrifice an artifact does give it a little boost in rating, since treasures are going to be all about rampant in this format. I'm not sure how to rate this quite yet. I think it could be potentially quite good, but it also has the possibility of just not being great at all. I'm gonna leave this at a 2 out of 5 for now, but that is a wavering rating. Nest Robber, 1 red, 2/1 haste dinosaur. Filler, 2 out of 5. Otepec Huntmaster, red and 1 for a 1/2 human shaman. Dinosaur spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, and you can tap it. Target dinosaur gains haste until end of turn. Again, one of those cards that's going to be very altered in rating based on how many dinosaurs you can pick up in your deck. If you have, multiple dinosaurs and get lucky enough to pick up some of those 5/5 trample hasters, yeah, this is going to have some decent value because they cost 4 or whatever. But overall, I don't think this is going to be great. Again, a very particular deck wants this. Give it a 2 out of 5, maybe 1.5. Rampaging Ferocidon, red and 2 for a 3/3 menace. Players can't gain life. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, Rampaging Ferocidon deals 1 damage to that creature's controller. So this is a rare. You're not going to see it very frequently, but it is a good rare. 3/3 menace for 3, already above average in limited. And then you get some nice aggro value out of the other trigger, although this does it to either player. So if you play a creature, you're also going to take 1 damage. 2.5. Raptor Hatchling, red and 1 for a 1/1 enrage. Whenever it is dealt damage, create a 3/3 dinosaur creature token with trample. This is similar to like a Brindleshote. If you guys remember that card, I think Brindleshote was a 1/1 where when it died, you got a 3/3 boar token. This one is nice though, because if you have pump effects, you can really utilize that enrage value as, say you give this creature +3/+3, you block a 2/2, you eat their 2/2, and you get a 3/3 to poop along with it. So, very worst case scenario, you're blocking a bigger creature and still getting a 3/3 out of the deal. I think this is actually a pretty decent card. I'm going to give this a 2.5. Repeating Barrage, 2 red and 1. Sorcery deals 3 damage to target creature or player. Raid, you can pay 5, return it from your graveyard to your hand. Good card. Reminds me of Hammer of Bogarden from way back in Mirage block era. It is a rare, so you're not going to see it very frequently, but just solid overall. Good removal spell, repeatable. Probably a 3 out of 5. Rigging Runner. Red for a 1/1 first strike Goblin Pirate. Raid, it enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it. 1/1 first strike for 1, not very good, even with Pirate synergies. 1 mana, 2/2 first strike, not as bad. There are going to be some aggressive decks that want to run this card, but overall, you're generally going to want to leave this on the sideboard. 2 out of 5. Ryle is 1 red for a sorcery, deals 1 damage to target creature you control. That creature gains trample until end of turn. Draw a card. I think this is a good card. You have to have a creature on the battlefield. You can't just cycle this without a creature. But with all of the enrage mechanics in this set, I think it's really, really good because you're going to get that bonus upside if you do it on an enraged creature. Or you can just cast it on one of your creatures that has more than 1 toughness to cycle it later in the game. I think this is actually like a 2 out of 5, maybe even a 2.5. Rowdy Crew, 2 red and 2, 3/3 trample, human pirate. When it enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards at random. If 2 cards that share a card type are discarded this way, put 2 1/1 counters on it. So 4 mana for a 3/3 trample on the bat, right on the bat, off the bat, I guess. And then you also get this pseudo big loot type effect, sift effect, and they can potentially turn into a 5/5. This is a mythic, though, so not going to see it very frequently, or it looks like a mythic on my screen anyways. Maybe a 3 out of 5 for limited. Rummaging Goblin, red and 2 for a 1/1. Goblin Rogue, discard a card, draw a card. Rummaging, a lot worse than looting, although I still think this ability is valuable. 2.5 out of 5. Starve Extinction, 2 red and 5. Sorcery, destroy target land. Starve Extinction deals 20 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. Great card. Nice wrath effect that with some added upside of destroying a land. It's not a bomb. It's not going to end the game for you, but it's one of those sweepers that just has a lot of utility. And, at 7 mana, it's kind of splashable almost. I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 5. Stormfleet Arsonist is a red and 4 for a 4/4 Orc Pirate. Raid. If you attack with a creature, target opponent sacrifices a permanent. So the raid is not too relevant, as at that point of the game, they're probably going to sacrifice a land or an irrelevant creature or something to that effect. But 5 mana 4/4 still okay. This is going to find a home in the top end of your aggro curves. I'm going to give this a 2.5 out of 5. Stormfleet Pyromancer, red and 4 for a 3/2 raid. When it enters the battlefield, if you attack with a creature this turn, it deals 2 damage to your creature or player. This is, again, not too shabby. The stats by itself aren't great, 5 mana for a 3/2, but if you're able to shoot a creature, or even just a player for, the last few points of damage, its value goes way, way up. I think this is probably a 2.5. Sun-Crowned Hunters, 2 red and 4 for a 5/4. Enrage, whenever it's dealt damage, it deals 3 damage to target opponent. So, kind of like the Manticore from the previous set, where if you block it, the opponent still takes a flick damage, a flick 3. Kind of like the same in that aspect. I think this is actually a pretty good common. 6 mana for a 5/4 is fine, but the Enrage puts it a little bit over the top, as it's usually still going to get through damage regardless. I'm going to give this a 2.5. Sunbird's Invocation, red and 5. Whenever you cast a spell from your hand, reveal the top X cards of your library, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. You may cast a card revealed this way with converted mana cost X or less without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. I think you're going to probably see people play this card in their control decks in Sealed and Draft. I know I'm going to want to play it just for that random lull value. These type of enchantments where you don't get immediate value are kind of awkward, of course. But I think this one is actually pretty solid, as long as you have some heavier removal spells, heavier spells in your deck in general. I'm going to give this a hesitant 3 out of 5. Sure Strike, another reprint, red and 1. Instant, target creature gets +3/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. 2 out of 5. Swashbuckling, red and 1. Enchantment, enchanted creature gets +2/+2 in haste. So another one of the cycle that we've seen in one of the colors, or each of the colors so far. Swashbuckling is okay. 2 out of 5. Thrash of Raptors, red and 3 for a 3/3. As long as you control another dinosaur, it gets +2/+0 and has trample. 4 mana for a 5/3 trample is pretty darn good in limited. And, very worst case scenario, you don't have a dinosaur and it's a hill giant. I think this is a really nice red common, especially if you can get the dinosaur synergies. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Talonali's Knight, red and 1 for a 2/2. Whenever it attacks, if you control a dinosaur, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Another really solid aggro card that benefits from having a dinosaur. And even just standalone as a bear, it's already going to get a rating of 1.5 or 2. So the fact that it has added upside with a dino is going to put it to a 2, maybe even a 2.5. Talonali's Skin Shifter, red and 2 for an 0/1 haste. Rare. Whenever it attacks, it becomes a copy of another target non-legendary attacking creature until end of turn. This one's a bit awkward, as it's never good on defense, but it can frequently be good on offense. I still think it's just too hit or miss, right? When it's bad, it's terrible. When it's good, it's great. So I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. Trove of Temptation, red and 3. Enchantment. Each opponent must attack you or a planeswalker you control with at least one creature each combat if able. And then at the beginning of your end step, create a colorless treasure artifact token. I think this is actually a really nice card. Not only are you getting, value immediately because you play it and then at the beginning of your turn you get a treasure, you force your opponent to attack you when maybe they don't want to, I think this card is going to see some good play. I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 5. Unfriendly Fire, red and 4, instant, deals 4 damage to target creature or player. Just a very solid common removal spell. It's going to kill most things in this format. Sure, there are some larger dinosaurs, of course, and other larger creatures, but, it's very splashable as well. It's an instant, 4 damage to either a player or creature is just, nice value, 3 out of 5. Wily Goblin, 2 red for a 1/1 Goblin Pirate. Whenever it enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. Not great. Not the worst. You're going to probably play it in your red decks, but a 2 mana 1/1 that just gives you a treasure is nothing to write home about. It's probably closer to a 1.5 out of 5 than anything else. And that's the last red card. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this brief look at a limited set review for red in Ixalan. Remember, we still have green, multicolor, and artifacts to do, so those will be coming out on Numot Gaming and YouTube. Don't guys forget to subscribe if you like. Hopefully you've enjoyed all of these set reviews so far. And, if you think any of my ratings are off, feel free to comment below in the comments section. We will see you next time. Thanks for watching.